Hi, I'm Nabila and I'm fairly new to YouTube, so you can imagine my excitement when I received a comment from Super Lenny on my tailoring video. It reads, could you make a tutorial on how to lengthen trousers by 10 centimeters when you don't have enough excess fabric for it? So obviously I want to answer this question to the best of my ability, but here's the thing. It's famously hard to add fabric when you've already cut it. So I'm not a wizard or anything, but I came up with a couple of solutions that might be able to help you out. So the first option, if you want to lengthen your pant hem, is just to make a narrower hem. So for this, you're just going to seam rip the existing hem and then finish your pant hem even smaller. So you could serge the raw edge, and I'm turning up the fabric by 1/2 inch and sewing that. Or if you don't have a serger, you can turn this up by either 1/4 or 1/2 inch twice and sew that down to get a clean finish. The problem with that though is we're trying to get as much length out of our pants as possible, and if you have to fold up twice, you're losing double the amount of fabric or whatever measurement you folded up. So if I was doing this, I personally would not fold up twice. I would just serge or use a zigzag stitch for that raw edge and fold it up once and sew it down. So obviously when you're done with this, you're going to need to press this with steam really well. I didn't do that so we could see how much I lengthened the pants by refinishing it in this way. So I got 1 1/2 inch extra from this pant hem, which is 4 centimeters. Now that doesn't meet our goal of 10 centimeters. So for this one, we're actually gonna get there. You will need to pick a matching fabric or a complementary fabric. I recommend getting a fabric with a similar weight to your existing pants, and you'll need to pre-wash your fabric before starting this project. So you'll start off similarly to the first option by seam ripping the existing pant hem, and next you'll need some measurements. So you'll need the width of your existing pant hem, and you'll need to know how much extra length you'll need. So in this case, when I seam ripped the pant hem, I knew I needed 3 extra inches to get a total of 4 inches or 10 centimeters. Remember to think about your seam allowance. So my existing pant hem gave me an extra 1 1/2 inch of fabric, but I'm not counting a 1/2 inch because of seam allowance. Now that you have your measurements from the pant hem, it's time to do some math to figure out how much fabric to cut. To put this very simply, your new fabric will need to be the width of the pants plus seam allowance, and the length of whatever length you want it to be plus seam allowance. So in this case, the width of my rectangle is 21 inches and the length is 5 inches. So I'll cut that panel out, and next I'll just sew up the side seam of my new pant hem and attach it to the old one. I like to line my seams up so they match with the inner thigh of the pants. And I'll sew the old pant hem to the new one at a 1/2 seam allowance. Now to finish these up, I'll hem them like normal. You can use whatever hem you'd like, just as long as you have accounted for it whenever you cut your new piece of fabric. For me, I'm turning up the bottom by a 1/2 inch and I'm stitching that down, and I'll turn it up and pin that hem again by 1 inch this time, and give it a good press and do a blind stitch by hand along the pant hem. I love doing a blind stitch for trousers because it's almost invisible on the other side, so it just looks super clean. Here I am doing it with white thread, and you can still barely see it from the other side of the fabric. To sew a blind hem, you'll start from the inside fold of your hem, and you'll take a very small stitch that'll go through the right side of your fabric. But keep that stitch very close to your hem, and then you'll dive right back into that fold about a 1/4 distance away from your first stitch, and come back up and repeat that process. After you're done with the blind hem, you'll want to give all of this a good press with steam to remove the crease from where your old pant hem ended. But I didn't do that here so that we could really see how much extra length we got from that alteration. So as promised, these pants are 4 inches longer or 10 centimeters. Now, if you're interested in doing this to your pants, but you're worried about it looking maybe silly to have a different type of fabric at the bottom of your pants, I really want to encourage you to infuse your own personal style in this fabric choice. Go to a fabric store and hold your pants up to different bolts of fabric and see what makes you excited. If these are trousers you're wearing to the workplace, you could do a solid pop of color like I did today, but you could even do a leopard print, which is a neutral in my opinion. Handmade clothing is trending right now, so don't be afraid to get a little funky with your fabric choice. As a side note, I think the trend of handmade clothing is here to stay, especially as we as consumers are getting sick and tired of the decline of clothing quality that we've been seeing lately. I'll be talking about this more in my next video, so please subscribe if you're interested. And for this next option, I won't be demoing it since I don't have the right ribbon on hand, but it's kind of like option 1 and option 2 combined. So we'll seam rip the pant hem, and then we'll cut a piece of 2.5-inch ribbon the same width of our pants, and we'll sew up the side seam and then attach it to your pant hem. So this is sort of like option 2, except for our end goal is actually to only have the ribbon showing on the inside of the pants. And so after we join those two pieces at a 1/2-inch seam allowance, we'll understitch towards the ribbon. So if you've ever applied a facing, it's kind of similar to that. So understitching is just a line of stitches that are sewn close to the edge of a facing, or in this case, the ribbon, to keep that bulk fabric from rolling to the outside. So it's a good idea to press all the bulk towards the ribbon and then understitch so you get a clean line. So the ribbon will be applied just to the edge of that fold. And then on the other side of that ribbon, we're just going to blind stitch that so that it's all finished. This next option for extending your pant hem is pretty simple, and it's great for more casual pants. All you'll need to do is find some lace, fringe, or ribbon and top stitch it to the bottom of your pant hem. In my example, I'm placing the applique on top, but you could also do it so that the pant hem sits on top and your lace, for example, peeks out from the bottom. The only thing about this option is if your embellishment of choice is more delicate, I would recommend washing this item on gentle and letting it air dry so things don't shift as much in your laundry. You'll see that my applique added 3¼ inch or 8 centimeters, but if I picked a longer embellishment, then it would extend the pant hem even more. And for this last option, I'll be borrowing an idea that I got from the channel Downtown Tailoring. Her videos on lengthening a pant hem are so good, and if I hadn't received a comment requesting this video, I probably wouldn't have done it because she covers this topic beautifully. So I'll link her video down below. In her video, she used 2 different types of denim, but I'm going to be using some chambray for my example, but you could even use a heavyweight lace. First, I need to do some math, and I kind of messed up here. See, I wanted to lengthen the pants by 4 inches or 10 centimeters to meet the request of my comment, so I thought I needed to just add seam allowance to that number, so I cut my length at 5 inches. But actually, at the beginning of this method, I'll be cutting 3 inches from the bottom hem of my jeans, and 1 inch will be applied on top of my fabric, so it's not adding to the length. And 1 inch total will be used in the seam allowance of the denim. So actually, I should have cut 7 inches for my length in this chambray fabric, but most people are probably not watching to the end of this video, so I'll keep this mistake in. If you are watching, I hope you learned from my mistake. Just remember to account for all the seam allowance and the length you're losing from cutting these pants and using a piece of it as an applique, and you'll be fine. Anyway, as I said before, the next step is cutting 3 inches off the jean hem and separating 1 inch off of the top of what I have cut. Next, I'll attach the chambray fabric to the bottom of my jeans and attach the bottom hem of my denim to the bottom of the chambray. This is all at 1/2 seam allowance. Then to finish it off, I'm just going to position that 1 inch denim strip in the middle of my chambray and top stitch it at the top and bottom of that strip at 1/4 seam allowance. So here's the finished product. Something I really like about this option is you don't need to hem it since we're using the original hem of the pants. So those are all my ideas to extend a pant hem, but I gotta be honest, I'm a short girl, so I never run into this problem. So if you do have any other possible solutions, please drop them in the comments to help someone else out. And thanks for watching. Bye!